Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to create another art journal page. Now I wanted to do another spotlight technique art journal page, but instead of just having the one spotlight I wanted to do three, so a triptych. So I went through my stamp collection to look to see what I had that would lend itself to it, and I came across this one from Indigo Blue. This is called Jane. It's number 5 from their collector's edition. So these are only little dinky stamps. It's just under 2 inches across. So it's a kind of perfect size for doing a 3-tier layout, if you know what I mean. An inexpensive stamp as well. Deeply etched red rubber, so you will get a decent impression on these. So what I want to do, first of all, I've cut 3 pieces of cardstock, and the cardstock is about the same size as the actual stamp, maybe just a little bit bigger, just so you can see that there's a little bit of a border all the way around the stamp. And I'm going to stick these down onto my page using temporary tape. So first one, I'm just trying to get as near to the edge as I can, so we don't want or try to avoid getting paint underneath. So the first one I'm going to place in the middle of the page, like so. Second one, once we've got the adhesive down, I'll place down towards the bottom, and I'm just going to do it by eye. I'm not getting the ruler out or anything to try and line them up. And then the third one we'll put at the top. And again, we'll try and get that even. And the middle. So if that looks as though there's more space at the bottom, then what I'll do is I'll just lift up. Like I said, it is temporary. So decrease the space in between. Lay it back down. Lift it back up. And hopefully we've got a fairly kind of even space in there. So just give the edges another rub. Yeah, I'm happy with that being in the middle. Okay, so that's going to create our 3 kind of masks for those blocks. So the next thing that I want to do, just put that stamp to one side, is bring in the colours that I want to use on this art journal page. So I've got, from my Dina Wakley media collection, I've brought in magenta and blushing, so 2 pinks. I've got lime, which is a nice green, obviously, and lemon. But I've also got buff, which is an off-white. So I'm going to use that just to tone those other colours down as and when necessary. But I've also got a brayer, and that's what I want to do with this today. I want to brayer the colour onto the page. So I'm going to start off with that kind of darker magenta first of all, and I'm going to put a little bit on my craft mat just there and start the ball rolling with that one. So I'm just going to work it in. I've got one of those heat resistant non-stick craft mats that I've got underneath here. So I'm going to just roll it and then do it in different directions just to start building up a bit of a background. Now I appreciate that you're not really going to get much paint going into that gap in between, but that's fine because all that's going to do is just help increase the effect, if you like, for the spotlight. So I think maybe just a tad more. So doing it this way, you do get a kind of faded, distressed, grungy kind of feel to the colour that you're putting down in the background. So start that off the first layer. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow down. Because the Dina Wakley Media paints are a little bit thicker than, say, like your deco arts, you're not going to get the same kind of run, if you like, that you would do with a thinner paint like the deco art ones. A little bit more. See, obviously that yellow's now turned orangey, which is cool. Well, warm, technically, if you know what I mean. So just trying to lay down as much background colour. And because you've got edges on the brayer, you can try and take it closer if you want to. Okay, so I think that's going to be it for the yellow. So I'll put that to one side. Now I'm going to bring in the blush in, that pink. Different tone of pink this time. And let's build that up on the brayer. That's going to tone those colours down a little bit. There we go. I'm liking the fact there's a little bit of a line developing between, which is cool. And you've also noticed that I'm not drying in between layers. So a little bit of that green. Come on. There we go. Give that a little bit of a pop. Because the colours I'm putting on with it, this is going to tone down citrusy in areas. Muddy in others. Now I'm going to bring in my heat gun. Just give it a little bit of a blast, and then I'm going to come back with that buff. Like I said, it's an off-white. It's a very, very, very... I won't go so far as to say like a dove white, because it's not. But it does help just to tone everything down. carry that colour onto that side for a little while. Okay, so let's get that dried off. Okay, so the paint is pretty much dry now. I'm just going over my stamp blocks, a couple of my stamp blocks, because they've got ink on them, permanent ink. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving them a quick clean over with a piece of kitchen roll and a quick squirt of alcohol. So that will just clear any solvent or oil-based inks that you've got left sticking onto your stamp blocks. So I always like to keep a little bottle of alcohol and a little bottle of water just handy, just for cleanups. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to introduce a little bit of background stamping onto this section here. So to do that, I've got this Indigo Blue Collector's Edition number 10, which is a crackle. So hence the block. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and place it so it's as close up to the edge of the block as I can, so that when I stamp it I can get right in down that side there. And then when I do this side, I'll do the same thing again and stamp that way. I'm not really bothered about it going on there because they're coming off later. But I'm going to do it with Vintage Photo Distressing. Mainly because it's a brown tone, so it's a warm tone. And it's going to give us a little bit of a vintagey kind of effect going round, adding a little bit of crackle. So it will look older, more distressed, without trying. And then a little bit at the top. I think maybe turn that around, ink up, and then go in from that side. Yeah, that's better. Kind of like that, but what I also want to do is just to add in some splatters onto it before we go any further. So I'm going to add some black splatters. So I've got some black gesso, indigo blue gesso. So I'll take a little bit from the lid, grab some water, mix it up, and then we can start to add our lovely splatters into the background. Don't need to do a lot, don't need to go mad. In this instance, a little restraint goes a long way. Just clear that up. Made a little bit more of a mess than I anticipated here. Right, what I'll do is I'll get this lot dried off and get this lot cleaned up, and I'll be back once I've done that. Multitask look. It's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time. Okay, black splatters are dry and I've had a bit of a tidy up. So I've now taken another one of those indigo blue stamps. This is the French script one you've seen me use before. This is number 2. And I've placed it on the acrylic block in the same way. I've got my arrows pointing which way is up, and then I'm going to just add a little bit of black text just in some of the areas, but not necessarily in all. There we go. I think that should do us. Okay, so now it's time to remove the masks. So just very gently peel it away. And because it's a temporary adhesive, if it does leave any residue, it just rolls off. There you go. There you go. So we've got 3 little spotlights. We've also got 3 rather nice little pieces of card that if you wanted to, you could just use to decorate the opposite side of the page. Ooh, excuse my tummy. Must be time for lunch. Okay, so now we need to stamp our main focal point. So I'm going to place that in the middle, get the stays on, and ink up Jane as best we can. And then position her in the middle. Excuse my head if I get this in shot. I'm trying to position this so it's pretty much in the middle of the block. Just like that. And then give it a push. Leave it for a second or two for the ink to soak into the paper. Don't want to take it off too quick. Give it a chance to actually get in there, and then lift, and hopefully we've got a decent impression. Sigh of relief there. I'll do it again. So once again, try and get it into the middle. Let me just get my head in shot for a second. So you can all have a snigger at my bald patch, if I've got one. And then push and hold. I'm just doing a little bit of minor rocking, but not a lot. And then finally, this one's going to be the most difficult because it's the furthest away. So excuse me again. And then push. Just a little bit of a rock. Et voila. Okay. So I need to make sure that is dry. So we'll give it a quick blast. And then I'll be back. Okie dokie. So pretty much dry. I want to add some highlights now onto the Jane figures. So what I've got is I've brought out from my Distress Ink collection, I've got Victorian Velvet and Tattered Rose. So I think the Tattered Rose is pretty much going to be the colour that we need. So I'm just going to put some of that on the worktop because it's kind of like a dusky pink. Depending on how much water you add, you can then start to go around and just to add in, because it also works fairly well as a little bit of a flesh tone, Caucasian flesh tone. But what I'm doing is I'm only adding the colour to the darker patches, not to the highlights. There we go. My tummy is certainly giving me instructions today. Okay, so just get some cleaner water and then I'm just going to go back over those edges just to kind of diffuse them a little bit. And they will just wick a little and soften. Okay, let's do the next. Do the same thing again. Just go up and over, underneath. Lightly go through. If you go a bit too dark, like I said, you can always go back and add a little bit of water just to diffuse it out a little bit. And then the top one. Just looks or gives you that effect of almost like a vintage photo. Like a hand tinted vintage photo. I'm sure you've all seen the like. So again, just clean off that brush, get some cleaner water and then just diffuse, diffuse, diffuse. Clean water, go back. Just diffuse it out a little bit. There we go. And then we'll just clear that. Put the tattered rose to one side, and then I'm going to bring in worn lipstick. And no prizes for guessing what I'm going to do next. So I'll start from the top because I don't want to smudge. Okay, so we've got different strengths, and because it's such a strong colour, if, like I said, if I'm not happy with the depth of colour, I can just go back, add a little bit of water, and then just dab it, and it will tone it down just a little bit. Like I said, I wanted it to look a little bit like a vintage photo, so the middle one I will go back and just add a little bit more colour. But I don't want it to be masses different. Just add a little bit more water. And then find a piece of clean kitchen towel dab once and take off. There we go. And then we can clean all that up. And I think I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to leave that exactly as it is. I don't think I want to do any more at all. We've got a little bit of the black just crouching in slightly onto the white, which is where the gap was on the outside of our masks. So I think knowing when to stop is half the battle, and I'm definitely happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sign it over here, and I'm going to date it. So today is 24th, 25th-ish of July, and I'm going to call that page done. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create that triple spotlight art journal page today in my, I forgot to mention, in my Strathmore mixed media journal. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up. It really does help because YouTube then recommend my videos to other people who may not have seen me before. Give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.